first, I want to talk about XDefiant because some really great news within the last 24 hours has finally been revealed. And first of all, the game itself is actually going to be releasing sometime later this summer, which is great. And when I got on Twitter, just randomly, because sometimes I do that, right? I don't always just get on Twitter to, just to browse endlessly, right? Sometimes I just do it randomly, or if I've got nothing else going on for a specific part of the day, it's like, yeah, let's get on Twitter. Why not? And lo and behold, I actually see Mark Rubin's tweet in my timeline at the right perfect timing, and it basically states that the game is going to be coming out during the summer. There is going to be an open beta. It's a shorter one, but it's basically to stress test the servers and get more people playing, etc., and also to get additional feedback before release. And that the game itself is actually going to release later this summer, and that we're also going to be getting 120 hertz on launch. Now, the question is, are we going to be getting 120 hertz at the beta? I'm not entirely sure, but ultimately, who cares, right? We're going to get updated servers. We're going to get, much better gameplay. We're going to get more time with the game. It's going to be open. Oh, and by the way, if you've already played the beta previously, the closed beta, you can actually have access to this beta one day early. So you can actually play on June the 20th, and then 24 hours later, the beta will go live for everybody else, right? So consider it kind of a warm-up, so to speak, right? Plus, it's a nice way to appreciate the people that have actually played your closed beta, and it is a really exciting time. I didn't actually even think about the Ubisoft Forward press conference or whatnot, but Mark Rubin got on stage, and he was on there for like 3 minutes, and it was short, and it was very sweet. They also detailed a very interesting roadmap, a roadmap that actually describes how Call of Duty's roadmaps used to be back during its heyday, right? So, and the fact that we're getting something like this and something so transparent from a much smaller team, what's up, Laura? From a much smaller team as well, is something that's very very interesting, because as the Call of Duty community, or the community that just loves arcade first-person shooters, basically is getting the kind of transparency that we've been longing for a long time, and the kind of support from the devs and from love and passion. And I'm finally glad that we get to this point. And there's actually going to be a 6-week roadmap, like a preseason, like a 6-week preseason before the first season originally officially launches. And then there's obviously going to be more maps. There's going to be more weapons. There's going to be more maps, more weapons, more factions. And I believe that Mark Rubin himself also said that it's basically going to be like one map every month, which is great. So, and obviously there's also going to be new game modes, and of course 90 tiers of battle pass for every season. So, and the thing is, for me, I keep thinking to myself, in terms of everything that was just mentioned here, whether you want to talk about the battle pass or whether you want to talk about the maps and all that kind of stuff, for me, if the game is going to be quality, which I believe it is, and from what we've seen so far, it is, especially with this open beta coming up and with the updated servers, with the hit detection. And they also said they fixed aim assist. There was also a different interview with Patrick Price, who's a former Call of Duty Pro player who now is developing this game. They said that they fixed the aim assist, as well as some other things that the community was basically stating. And if that wasn't enough, there's one more thing, which also makes me very excited. And that is the fact that people that have last gen consoles that have not, for whatever reason, been able to upgrade, because there's varying reasons as to why people have not been able to upgrade yet. Guess what? These people are going to have their shot at XDefiant, I would probably guess maybe a month or two after launch, because they're working on it and they're going to get it released. And it's going to be sometime shortly after the launch on the current gen consoles, which is the PS5, the PC, and of course, the Xbox Series X and S. So, now, just an FYI for anybody that might be curious that's listening to this, I have an Xbox Series X, and I also have a PC. And I may go back and forth and just see how it feels on both sides and play on both. But ultimately, this information is extremely exciting, and I'm very glad that the last gen console players are also being put into this, because the game itself it's not the most technologically demanding game or whatnot, but it's good that the last gen console players get to experience a silky 60 frames per second game with, graphics that are not the most demanding, because we know that the past gen consoles of the Xbox One and the PS5 the PS4 for instance are definitely capable of handling a game like this and running it. I mean, even though their limit is 60 frames per second, I think that's perfectly fine. I think that's perfectly reasonable. Obviously 120 frames is better, but you guys get my point here. I mean, Call of Duty became the king of first person shooters for a long time at some point because of the whole 60 frames per second. Now, I know that that was years ago and such, but still to this day, having a silky 60 frames per second is passable, right? So I'm really glad that the last gen consoles are getting the kind of treatment that they deserve, and they get a shot to play this along with us, which is great. So I'm looking forward to launch. I hope it's sooner rather than later. My expectations for XDefiant is as follows. If this last and final beta that's going to be open reveals from a data perspective and feedback as well to the devs from us, if it reveals that everything is looking good and they have the minimal amount to do between now and launch, or between, the 20th when the beta is going to come out and then the launch, if everything is smooth and looking good, and if all the stuff they have to work on is on a minimal basis, then guess what? I think the game is going to release sooner. Why delay it even more? There's kind of no sense to it, right? Especially since the final date, since the date hasn't been finalized, at least to my knowledge, right? Because I think they're kind of leaving what open. Maybe they don't even know, or maybe they do have a date, but they just haven't announced it yet. But it's going to be sometime later this summer. But I personally, for me personally, in terms of common sense, I think they're doing it because they don't have a final date, and they're just saying at the end of the summer, or later on this summer, is because of the fact that they want to see what the feedback and what the data is going to be like. And if it says that they still have a lot more to work on, then they'll have a release window after that. And if it seems like everything is good and there's a minimal amount to work on, they're going to release sooner. From a selfish standpoint, yes, I want them to release sooner. But ultimately, I want the game to obviously be functional at launch. I want the servers to be stress tested properly, so that way people can get on and play and not have to worry about the issues with that. And obviously, we want the game to be as bug free as possible. And we want the game to be running as smoothly as possible for every single person who experiences the game, because ultimately that's all we want at this point, right? So we know we're going to get a great game. We know we're going to get the transparency and the support. We know that the developers are actually listening to the feedback that we give them, as well as anything else that we may give them in terms of creativity and stuff like that. These guys are listening. Mark Rubin is listening. He genuinely cares. And it's great that the arcade first-person shooter community is finally going to get a game that they've been longing for, as well as the kind of support from the devs and the transparency from the devs that we've been longing for a long time, especially if you're within the Call of Duty community. I really don't think I need to say more about that. So in terms of XDefiant, good times lie ahead. It's going to be a very exciting time in terms of getting all the players on this open beta. I, for one, have been very much looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to seeing how the servers, these updated servers, along with the hit detection and in terms of how the lag is and all that kind of stuff. I really want to see how this plays more than anything. That's one of the things that I've been most curious about, especially with the controller input lag, because for those of you guys that don't know, even though I play on the Xbox Series X, I use a Brook super converter that allows me to play on the PS5 with the PS5 controller. And why am I playing on the PS5 controller? And it's simply because of the fact that the sticks, for me personally, just allow me to aim so much better with the PS5 sticks than compared to an Xbox One or an Xbox Series X controller for a first-person shooter. So that's why I use that, and that's what I use when you see Halo here. When you see this gameplay here, it's what I use for, again, first-person shooters. PlayStation controller, in my opinion, for me personally, just for me, because of the sticks, is much better. But overall, it's a great controller. Even the Xbox One controller is great and all, but again, I miss that 360 controller, man. But it is what it is. But in terms of XDefiant, that is what I wanted to talk about, and that is very exciting news. I'm really excited for Mark Rubin and his team to finally get this baby released, because it's been a long road in order to get to where we are now. And with all the kind of bad news that we've been getting in terms of Activision kind of just getting rid of some of these modders or whatnot, and everything like that, it's literally a breath of fresh air that we're going to get a game like this. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how it fully plays on launch when the entire population of the community basically just floods this game completely, and just how much fun it's going to be to play. I very much am looking forward to it. I want to know down in the comment section what you guys are looking forward to the most in the game. Are you looking forward to kind of reliving the older days of the arcade first person shooter era back when COD was in its heyday, before it became what it is today? What are you most excited about when it comes to this game? I want to know down in the comment section. Please let me know your thoughts. And that concludes the first topic of today's discussion.